Hi, welcome to another episode of Mom Does It All. If you're looking for encouragement, empowerment, and uplifting in motherhood and mompreneurship, this is the show for you. I'm your host, Marta Spurk, triplet mom, certified success coach, and all things motivation extraordinaire. In this episode, I'll be talking about the responsibility that we have to teach our kids everything they know, and that includes self-love. We hear so much about the importance of teaching our kids to eat healthy, to exercise, but do we hear enough about the importance of teaching them self-love? We can't teach what we don't practice, right? Let's get right to it. Piggybacking on last week's solo episode, and my realizations, even when I'm watching TV, I talked about watching The Amazing Race and also Fear Factor and how I just analyze and start thinking about things and comparing it to my reality and to all the things that I've studied throughout my life because I just love studying and learning. And I feel like every situation is a learning opportunity, and that's why I love a challenge because I learn. When you put yourself in uncomfortable situations and positions, you force yourself to learn and to adapt. And when I talked about The Amazing Race and seeing people go to remote locations and understanding that there's a whole world out there we know nothing about, really has been prompting me to think about other things too that I wanted to share with you today. And this is why I love traveling, getting to see different realities, imagining what life would be like if I'd been born in a different place or lived there for a while. Going to Europe and Japan really blew my mind because when you're standing in that land, in that soil, miles and miles and miles away from what you've always known, you start realizing this has been here for centuries and millennia. The whole old world is really fascinating coming from America, you know? And even with all the reading that I've been doing about our thoughts and science and our brains, and I talked about this last week too, like creation, especially coming from a Christian background, I started thinking how, when you're born, you know nothing. You start knowing as you are taught where reality is, and people around you are teaching you what reality is. And every time you experience a new situation, that's the reality you know. And I always thought of this growing up Christian too. Imagine being born in the Middle East or even in the East period. Life would be so different because there's so many different beliefs and customs. It's really a whole different outlook of life. And that's why languages have fascinated me for so long also because they're intrinsically connected. Reality is intrinsically connected with languages and a different culture. A language is a lifestyle because it's a way of expressing what you see. That's what language is. It's just finding a way of making sense of the reality around you. And that's why languages are so different because it's different realities. Isn't that amazing? I just love that stuff. And I've been talking a lot about my interpreting jobs on my stories on social media, if you follow me. And it's insane because Portuguese is not such a common language, but I've been having jobs almost daily here in Denver, which is amazing. And again, such an awesome opportunity to know different realities, even within the same city and the same community, because I'm connecting with people from different areas of Brazil. And I've interpreted for someone from Portugal not too long ago either. And one thing that I don't know if I've mentioned before is that when I got my bachelor's in Brazil, I had English and Portuguese, obviously, and there was also French. So when you think about it, which I hadn't even done the math, I have been speaking French, learning French, and even teaching French for almost 15 years. And we got to go to Paris on my birthday in 2012, which, by the way, everything that's happening with Notre Dame is so sad because we were there and we got to visit and everything. I need to find my pictures. But it was so dreamy to just, see what I'd been studying for so long and wishing I could live there for a season anyways and imagining what life would be like. So the other day, going back to how, our realities are so different and kind of putting it together here with the interpreting work that I do, I did my first French interpreting job. And I was nervous because obviously it's not my native language like Portuguese. And, I don't feel as comfortable with it as with English. But like I said, I love challenging myself and putting myself in crazy situations so that I learn, and also because I would be helping somebody. And what was interesting about the appointment that I did, it was at the Children's Hospital, and it was for an eye visit for a child. And it was an African family, and the boy actually didn't speak French. He understood English well. The dad spoke French. He understood some Portuguese, or some English, but he was saying that at home, he spoke French with his wife and Arabic with the kids. So the kids mostly spoke Arabic. So I was mostly interpreting for the dad. But anyways, they were there for an eye appointment because there were concerns that he was having some issues with his vision. But the reality of it was he was having a hard time identifying the alphabet because that's not what he knew, speaking Arabic, which is a completely different alphabet too. And so it made it kind of seem like he had a vision problem, but his reality was he's not familiar with the alphabet that we use. And so that was causing all of the issues in school and things like that. And that is just crazy, right? To think, because he comes from a different place, and it goes along with everything that I have been talking about, and it's just nuts. And the reason why I'm telling all this is because I want to compare this with motherhood for a minute and the new reality that you experience once you become a mom. Because until you become a mom, everything that you know about being a mom, it's through the reference of what you grew up with, right? Maybe movies, and this happens with everything in life, even like getting married or going to school or anything. The reference that you have is the things around you. But the reason why I want to focus on moms, obviously because this is the core of my work, but also because this is a huge realization here that I wanted to share. Because once you become a mom, you realize the huge responsibility that you have of teaching someone that knows nothing. And it hits you hard to have that amount of responsibility for someone else's life. And I feel like that's a lot of the discontentment and the resentment that comes sometimes with motherhood, is because you lose that freedom of, I'm only in charge of myself and I don't have to worry about anybody else. And then you decide to have kids, and it's like everything changed because it's not about me anymore. The focus has shifted, and it's a burden almost, because it's a lot of responsibility. And it's like, I don't want to have to deal with that because it's a lot. I would rather just be responsible for myself. But of course, you love your kids. It's kind of a dilemma that we're in. And it's so much more than just having a happy baby at home. It's like, oh my gosh, this is my life now. I have another person that completely depends on me so much, especially as a stay-at-home mom, right? And in a way, they're just born. They don't know anything, but so are you, because it's such a different reality. It's like you're being reborn, except you have 20 somewhat years of experience being alive. It's very complicated, and it's no wonder we lose ourselves and we just go on survival mode. But that's detrimental to everyone around us, including that little person that knows nothing and has to learn mostly from you. So there is a responsibility of teaching them everything, but there's also the responsibility of figuring yourself out more so you can help them. And the other day I posted something about how taking care of yourself is not selfish. It's a necessity. And I even talked about modeling self-love. Because if you're teaching your kids everything, then you're the person that they're going to learn from when it comes to knowing who they are and loving themselves. And we talk so much about self-care and self-love, and it's all because, mom needs her sanity and mental health to be able to take care of the kids. But we forget that it's not just for mom to feel good so she can be present and take care of the kids. It's also because that mom is teaching that kid something. That mom is either teaching that kid that eventually they're not going to be the center of attention anymore, and they're just going to be put in the back burner because that's what she's doing, or that she's still a person and she needs care, love, attention, and a time for herself because that's what that kid is going to grow up knowing how to do, if that makes any sense. And when we talk about, you have to model exercising, eating healthy for your kids, but how about modeling positive self-talk? And this goes along with self-love too. We don't pay attention to that nearly as much as we should, because it's great for them to know that mommy loves them, right? I mean, that's where a lot of our problems in life and the issues that we develop in adulthood is, my mom didn't really love me. My mom gave me all the love that I needed. And I've talked about this before when I mentioned this documentary with Tony Robbins that I watched, which was huge in having even more realizations about how, regardless of how your parents treated you and what kind of upbringing you had, this is affecting you positively and negatively up to this day. Whether they were super supportive, that has affected you. Whether they were not very supportive at all, that has affected you in different ways. And we forget about this. We forget that the way we talk to ourselves in front of our kids and the way we treat ourselves is something that we're teaching them. They're picking up on everything, right? And so it is great for them to know that mommy's always there, that mommy's super, helpful, that mommy takes care of them, that mommy loves them. But we have to remember that at the end of the day, they will be all they have. Yes, now they're very dependent beings, but just like at the end of the day, you are all you have because you're not connected to anybody else except for you. That's true for each and every one of your kids. And that's something that I need to remind myself a lot, because with triplets, it's hard for me to separate their identities sometimes. Even when we go to the doctor and they ask me about one of them, because every time we go for their yearly appointments now, they say, okay, let's start with Benjamin. And then we talk about him. It's really hard for me to use even the pronoun he. I catch myself saying they all the time because for me, it's kind of like they're a group, they eat this. But no, yes, of course, Benny eats more of this because he likes that more. And in terms of behavior, they're different. But you know what I mean? We forget that we're all individuals. And for me, my kids are all individuals, even born the same day, and I am an individual too. So that's why it has been my passion to teach moms to get back to their essence and their core, which is different for everyone, because then they can teach their kids this too. So it's not just for you being selfish, mom, I want to know myself, blah, blah, blah. It's you're doing this for you, but you can model this to your kids. And that's why I'm so excited about what I'm doing, because my kids will get the benefit of all of this. And what I have realized is that while I can't tell you who you are, I can give you the tools to get to that. And I'm so excited about the free guide I created and the program I'm working on, which I will be announcing my free masterclass that outlines the program and explains it in more detail next week. So stay tuned. Any mama and every mama will benefit from this because, like I said, we are all we have at the end of the day. And it's not just about taking care of you. It's also modeling this to your kid. So once you start getting to know yourself and going back into your past, and that's all the work that I do, is going back into your past and understanding what you were taught and the realities that you experienced to get to this point, and now choosing the reality that you're going to go with, because this is the reality that you're passing on to your kids. But see, until you become aware of all of this, you are not being intentional with what you're teaching your kids. It's just autopilot. It's what I've known. This is what I grew up with. So this is what I'm passing on to my kids unconsciously, unintentionally, because this is who I am. This is what I'm bringing to the table here as a person. But when you start looking back and realizing the patterns and the things that you're bringing with you because of what you were taught in school or your mom or your friends, then you start being more selective. That's the whole point of everything, is understanding you can be selective about what you teach to your kids and what you pass on to them. And not only that, but you can be more selective with what you are carrying around with you. But you can only do that if you're aware of what even it is that you're doing. And that's why you have to go get this free guide, because it helps you. There are 3 steps, and this is what I want to talk about next week, is the 3 steps. First, creating that awareness and understanding what you've been carrying with you, so that you can decide if you still want to carry that around or not. If this is still what you believe in, because here's the thing, you grow up submerged in this reality that was taught to you. But now that you're an adult and you understand things clearer, you know that there are different realities out there. There are different perspectives and ways of seeing the world, and you get to choose how you're going to see the world. It's not like you're a helpless baby and all you know is the culture of your family. And this is what happens when people, change cultures or change religions. This is what happens when people change their minds. I am fascinated by that idea, and that's something that I have been looking into lately too, is what happens with you when you just change your mind about something. Even as small as, I was really looking forward to going out to dinner with a friend tonight, and then all of a sudden you feel like, I don't really want to go, so I'm just going to message her and say, I'm not feeling it. Like, what happens with that? Is it you got discouraged throughout the day with some other stuff that happened and you'd rather stay at home and not really have to connect and talk to people and just want to keep it to yourself? Like, things happen like this throughout the day with us. And that's why I am so passionate about understanding our emotions and our thought patterns, because it's really fascinating how things work inside our brains and inside us as people. How we are, fluctuating all day long with our emotions and our thoughts. And once you start understanding what's going on inside of you, you get to be more selective with what you're doing with your life. You start understanding that it's not just happening to you. You can decide where you're going, and how powerful it is to realize all of this and then teach it to the people that depend on you, that know nothing about the world. And what a privilege it is to teach somebody from scratch what life is, but how much more amazing would it be if you knew it in more detail and empowered your kids with all of this knowledge? I just think it's fascinating. So go get my free guide. It's martasperk.coach/free guide. You can find it on the show notes as well, or on the link in my bio on social media. I'm so excited for you to go through this, because this is life-changing, honestly. I've been searching for so long for what I could actually teach, and this has been a process, because I started out with fitness, like I've said so many times before, and it's not my expertise. I realized my expertise is motivation and encouragement. I went on to talk to women about building their business, which I'm still very passionate about and I love doing. But then I started realizing, what is my true expertise except for teaching somebody a different language? What do I really know that I can teach somebody else and pass along to somebody else? And then I started looking at, what do people usually respond to and ask for when it comes to me? And it is the motivation, it is the energy, it's the positivity. And while I can't teach you to be positive, I can't teach you to be energetic, I can't teach you to be motivated, I can give you tools to find that within you and project that into the world. And I feel like that's so helpful, because this is what most people are looking for. It's how to create that happiness throughout their day, and even if they're not looking for that, that's what really they are looking for, because usually we try to look for happiness and fulfillment in people and in things. And I've been realizing that it will never happen, right? It has to come from within. So how do you create that from within? This is what I have been doing, what I've realized that I've been doing my entire life. But now that I've been dedicating more time to get to know myself, I realized that, there are several different tools that I've used in the last 2.5 years that have helped me intentionally create my thoughts and my emotions and create a happier reality for myself. And this is what I want to teach you. This is what I've compilated all of this knowledge after becoming a mom. And I realized I can teach women how to do that for themselves. So you have to check this guide out. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope this helped you reflect and motivated you to get back into your essence, get to know yourself, feel more empowered so you can empower your kids to learn more about self-love and teach them about self-love. Don't forget to get my guide. It's just smarttosbirth.coach/free guide, and connect with me on social media. Send me a DM. Let me know what you thought about this episode. Share a screenshot on your stories and tag me, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.